Well, hello, hello.
Hello, hello. My goodness, I cannot believe we are at the last episode of this series and almost to the end of season one.
Yeah, we've got two more after this, and I'm very excited about those two. But let's dive into today. So, hello everybody. I'm Leanne.
And I'm Jason, and this is Let's Talk.
And this is a space where no topic is off limits. We'll be discussing things from well-being and resilience, leadership, money, relationships, mindset, pride, and so much more.
Yes. And as always, here at Let's Talk, we bring different perspectives, those real life stories, and honest conversations because the things that we don't often talk about often are the things that need to be talked about and um, and to have those conversations.
Because they matter most, right? And they're often the things that we don't want to talk about for fear or shame or whatever else. So you can count on us to bring up the topic. So, so this is where we're at today. So welcome back to Let's Talk, where we're really looking at our final episode for this series, where we've looked at the art of intentional living. And today, our episode is really about pulling it all together, where we're moving from where we've been, pulling all the information, and where we're heading in the future. So I wanted to say something that I mean with all of my heart, and that is to say thank you. Thank you to all of you for showing up, for listening, for doing the work. Because without you, we wouldn't have this role, and we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So thank you, really, from the bottom of our heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that, Leanne. And thank you for being such an amazing co host.
Yeah, and I love working with you, Jason.
Yes, me too. I mean, I love working with you and
Yes,
myself.
I know what you meant, and you love working with you. All good.
So, over this series, The Art of Intentional Living, we have covered so much ground. And like Leanne said, in today's episode, we're bringing it all together. So, let's take a quick moment to honor how far we have come over the last several episodes because I know this series has been a little bit longer than the first two series and we've covered a lot of ground. So we've covered everything from the knowing doing gap and why awareness alone isn't enough. We also spoke intensely about clarity and the power of vision that pulls you forward to what you're working on, along with what does it mean to put your values into action? Living what you say matters, right? Along with the energy management over burnout. It's like your energy, if you don't have it, you can't really lead into all this stuff, all this rich stuff we've been talking about to accomplish it. And then after that, we spoke about building the systems you need to put in place over that motivational willpower, because those will always ebb and flow. And you need those great systems to help you through those low moments, right? Then we spoke about boundaries as the ultimate act of self respect, moving on from that to courage, visibility, and showing up as your full, authentic self. Then we spoke about aligned decision making from the inside out. Um, then moving into one of Leanne's favorite topics and areas of expertise on money, meaning, and building a life of financial freedom. And from that, we moved into those relationships that really elevate you and looking at, what relationships you need to put into your life as new relationships and which ones need to stay and which ones need to say goodbye for the moment. And then last week, the art of reinvention, knowing when it is time to evolve. And there was so much rich conversation last week. We probably could have had a 3-hour podcast just on that topic alone. But that's an overview of what we've gone over in series 3 over the last several weeks. And like both of us said, today we're bringing it all together because knowing is one thing, building it is another. But living it forward, meaning sustaining it, choosing it every day, even when life gets loud, that is the real work. So today we ask, what does it actually take to keep living an intentional life long after the inspiration fades? So today we're going to be moving into what that actually means. And with that, I will turn it over to Leanne.
Thanks, Jason. You know, as you were reading through the topics that we've had, there's been many of them that have impacted my life just from hosting the conversations. The systems for
Mhm.
sure, the relationships for sure, the visibility piece for sure, right? So although Jason and I are having these conversations, our life is also impacted by the conversations that we have. And I know, Jason, you've alluded to that in some of the conversations that we have outside of the podcast as well, just how much we refer back to, oh, in our podcast today, you know, we said this or whatever the case might be. So it's been an absolute buzz being here. But where I want to go to really is um, the gap between insights and a sustained living. Because as Jason said, inspiration can fade. And we really want to create this momentum in our lives to help people to move forward. So, do you want me to take this, Jason, or did you want to pick this up?
No, you can take it.
Okay. So, here's the honest truth that most people don't talk about. And insights feel amazing. We know that. And this is the gap between the sustained living and not sustained living, right? We need to feel insight. And insights, because they feel amazing, you know, we're more motivated to move with them. And this episode that changes your thinking, the book that opens your eyes, it could be the conversation that shifts everything. Those moments are real and they actually matter. But
Mhm.
then Monday arrives, right? Or you leave the program and you're all pumped up, and then you go back into your old world, your natural world, and the old patterns are still there. The inbox is still full. The kids still need something, and God, they always need something. The energy is low, and the version of you who had the clarity feels like it's a distant memory, right? It feels quite far away. And the truth is, inspiration is the spark, but intentional living is the fire that you need to fan and tend to every day. And so this is not failure or motivation. It's actually just how human beings work. We are wired for novelty. We like novelty, right? That new, bright, shiny thing. And we get a bit of a dopamine hit from new insights or when something's new. But when the brain still defaults to familiar patterns, unless we build new ones deliberately and repeatedly, we're going to keep defaulting back to our old patterns. So we've got to spend time and energy on creating something and rewiring ourselves, basically. So the question is not, how do I stay inspired? The question is really, how do I build a life that keeps working for me, even when I'm not feeling it? And, you know, we all have days when we're not feeling it, whether it's we're not feeling happy, we're not feeling inspired, we're not feeling motivated, but we need to then build systems and strategies in place to support us during those times. And
Yeah.
so, just to double click a little bit more on the neuroscience here, you know, I love bringing the brain into the conversation, and it's Jason and I's sweet spot. But what we need to do is look at the brain for a moment, because this is where the real answer lies. And we've talked about this throughout the series about your prefrontal cortex, which is that planning, intentional, executive function brain, and the limbic system, which is the emotional, habitual brain, right? And the how the two of them kind of work as a seesaw. They can't both work simultaneously. And here's what the neuroscience tells us about sustaining change. First and foremost, we need to build repetition, right? And because repetition actually builds new pathways. Every time you choose a new behavior, a neural pathway is activated, right? And the more that we repeat that, the stronger and the more automatic that neural pathway becomes. And this is Hebb's law that neurons that fire together wire together. So we need to keep firing these new pathways consistently. And sustained intentional living is about is about that. It's not about willpower. It's about repetition until the new way becomes the default mode. And then we fall on that rather than the old wiring that we used to have. So I think it's really important that we think about repetition is the key. The second stage of this is emotion, because emotion accelerates rewiring. And the brain rewires faster when emotion is attached. And this is why celebrating small wins, not just the bad stuff, but actually the good stuff, it's not indulgent. It's actually neurochemically strategic. Pride in ourselves, gratitude for the stuff that comes to us, the excitement that we feel when we're doing something new. These emotions reinforce these new pathways that keep us moving forward. So we've got to be good at celebrating ourselves. We can't be relying on external validation. We've got to be the ones to blow our trumpet and go, look, oh, me, I did well, right? And it's okay to do that. So we really need to be celebrating the small wins because emotion matters. And the third one here is that identity is the anchor. So when behavior becomes a part of who you are, not just what you do, it sustains itself. So the person that says, I am somebody who protects their energy maintains boundaries more easily than somebody who is trying to have better boundaries. Identity is the most important thing. It's the most powerful change mechanism in the whole brain. Like really, we will fight for our identity and we will stand by that. So we need to be managing our identity and making sure that we're upgrading our identity. And we've done a session on that too, Jason, around identity upgrade. So it's really important that we can use that as an anchor. It's not I'm trying, it is I am this now, and to keep reinforcing that. And the fourth one here is the nervous system, because it needs regulation. We say this every session.
Every session.
Every session. Regulation and not pressure. You can't sustain anything from a place of chronic stress or depletion. It's just not possible. So, and a dysregulated nervous system will always pull you back to that familiar old coping pattern and record that we have. So we need to rest. We need rhythm in our lives. We need recovery. And these are not luxury items. These are the infrastructure of sustainable, intentional living. So we need to be making sure that we're honoring ourselves and listening to our body and taking the rest that we need. It's not something that is weak. It's actually mandatory for us to be able to show up as our absolute best. And I just want to kind of double click on that, because you can't build a sustainable life on an unsustainable nervous system. You just can't. So we need to make sure that we're sustaining health and well-being and our equilibrium at all times.
Yeah, and and I think a good, reminder point for our listeners, Leanne, for the around the nervous system and regulation and that that health and well-being is, if you haven't checked out our series 1, which was on many different dimensions of well-being, there's some good gold nuggets in there that you can get on how to amplify rest, amplify your rhythm, and also other areas of well-being, from other physical elements to
emotional well-being, spiritual, the whole lot. We did a whole series on that.
Yeah. And so and not saying that folks have to go listen to each whole episode, but they can kind of thumb through and get the good takeaways, at least, that we gave at the end of each episode.
You know what I like about listening back to something, Jason? Sometimes you can speed it up. So you can listen and then pause, write things down. You can speed it up if you don't have a lot of time. Like, it's worth having a listen to.
Absolutely. So with all of that, I want to next go over the 5 practices of living life forward. So what does this actually look like in actual practical practice, right? Beyond the theory. So there are habits and rhythms that keep life intentional. And what are they? So I'm going to go over the 5 practices that I'll come back to again and again in my own life. Oh, sorry. There was a little typo in my
That's
script
okay.
there. Hey, that's the loveliness of doing it live, right, Leanne?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go over the 5 practices on how to live your life intentionally forward. So the first one is the daily anchor. And within this practice, every intentional life needs a daily ritual practice. And doing it in the morning is a good time, even if it's short. And what this does is that it reconnects you to who you are and what you are building before the world gets its hands on you. And it can do that very quickly. So, covet that time in the, usually in the morning is one of the better times. So that you can put this practice into motion and just be very focused and intentional. And this is the point is with this practice is before you respond to anything, remember you choose yourself first. The second practice is the weekly.
Can I just
Oh,
add
yeah.
something to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's some great resources out there called the 5 a.m. Club or Miracle Mornings are 2 that come to mind around the importance of these morning practices and setting your day up with intention. And I think that's the key, right? Like, it's not just about sliding into your day, sliding out of bed after hitting the snooze button. This is about spending quality time thinking about, visualizing, breathing, doing all the things, going for a walk, journaling, whatever it might be. And even if you only do it for a few minutes every day, starting your day with intention will completely shift the rest of your day. So I just wanted to double click on that because having a morning practice is probably the best thing you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I forget which well-being episode it was in where we talked about creating your little space in your space.
Environmental well-being, that was.
Environmental well-being, yes. Where we talked about whether you live in a studio apartment or a large home, clear out a space that's going to be yours where you can go and do this work. And I think one other thing too, Leanne, to what you were just saying, I think also speaking whatever your daily vision is out loud so that you can hear it, I think is something that also can just be another touch point of internalizing it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
So yes, so choose yourself first. Then practice 2 is the weekly review. So once a week, step back and ask yourself, am I living in alignment with what I said matters? And the key word is what I said matters, not what your partner said, not what your kids said, not what work said, but what you said matters. Also, following that question up with another question of where did I show up well? Along with where did I drift, right? Followed by what one thing will I do differently this week? And those questions can be just a couple word answers. You don't have to write a dissertation on it. I'll write that. I'm writing that for you. So, asking yourself these intentional questions in that space, when you're in that stillness, when you're journaling and really focusing in, it's amazing the power and the magic that comes out with that. And a reminder is that this is not self-criticism, right? It's course correction. It's getting yourself back into alignment. Also, because I'm a big values person, is also maybe ask yourself what personal values did I lean into this week? Or which ones did I not lean into this week, right? So remember that small adjustments made weekly prevent the large drift that takes months to recover from. So it's those small steps forward that are going to get you to that big, oh, I'm here, versus, not doing anything. And then you get to that large drift and it's going to take you way longer to get back, like a larger course correction. The third practice is the values check. Now, I spoke a little bit about it in the weekly practice, but to expand upon it is return to your values on a regular basis. And I say that because a lot of people just do it in the hard moments. They don't do it in the everyday consistency moments, right? So the ask for yourself is, are the choices that I'm making today in alignment with what I said I stand for? Right? Which leans a little bit into the questions that I had said. Where was I in alignment this week with my values? Where was I out of alignment with my values? And that can be personal combination with work or professional values. A lot of times they're married anyways, because we're so integrated. And with that is, remember that your personal and professional values are your compass in life. But only, and I say only, if you consult them. Because if you don't consult your values, and you and I have talked a lot, Leanne, too, there's a lot of people who don't even know their values.
Yeah. Yeah. Or
they may know like one or two, but they don't know like hey, like, what are your core values? Like,
or they've incorporated other people's values that don't actually sit right, and wondering why they're resisting, and which I've seen also happen, especially around families and all sorts of stuff, actually. So your values, to me, the values are my checkpoint. It really is my checkpoint. Like everything I do, I run through the lens of my values and my mission statement for my life to make sure that I'm living in alignment. I even painted a rock this year on the 1st of the 1st of this year. I literally painted a rock that says authentic alignment, because for me, that's what I wanted this year to be about, right? And it sits by my computer. So, and that is a value of mine, right? To be authentic, but to be in alignment is so important. So, I'm not saying that you have to paint a rock, but find ways that you can really live into values, and make sure that they are your guiding light, because that's where your bliss lies. Without that, we're just in survival. But if we're living with intent, then, we're thriving.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I like what you said, where a lot of times people are living other people's values.
Yeah.
And I think that results in performative living.
Yeah, which is not fun at all. And believe me, I've been there, I've done it. And I'm, you know, and it wasn't pretty. I didn't like, but I'm sure I'm not the only one. And I know that I speak to clients all the time who are not living into their values, or their values are being compromised, or there's all sorts of, and you can feel the heaviness.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas when we're living into them, there's this lightness, this spring in our step almost. So it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we move into a great practice of the energy audit. And we recommend that you do this every 90 days, to really do a deeper dive on seeing where your energy is going, right? Is it being funneled in the right direction? Is it being funneled in the wrong direction? Is it even schmeven in the middle? And when you do that, you'll get the insights of where you're being drained and what and who is draining you. along with, on the other side of the teeter-totter, who and what are filling you up, right? And where are you giving your best hours to things that are not your priorities? And I know we all have them. You know, some are in a much better place than others because people have put in the work, you know, and it's interesting sometimes when you're finding that you're more in the draining column than you are in the filling up column. Like some people are like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so much work. It is work, but if you do a little bit each day, you're going to be over on the other side of the teeter-totter before you know it.
Yeah. And can I just add something here,
Yeah.
Jason? I've actually have this tool that I use called AI, and I'm sure most of you have heard of this. But I've actually got this one prompt that I've used, and every day I would type into it what I've done for the day. So it's not a chapter and verse, it's just high level. I spent 30 minutes doing this, half an hour doing this, an hour and a half doing this, whatever it is, right? I fill it into this. And it actually at the end of the week gives me an analysis of what I've done, what and it asks me every time, where was your energy when you were doing that? So I've got to say, oh, that energized me, that drained me, that was neutral, whatever the case might be. And I have this dialogue with it. And then it gives me this report at the end of every week and it tells me, you spent so many hours doing this, which actually drains you. Can you outsource part of that? Or, this in order to bring in more visibility, you need to be doing this because that's what you've said is important. And so it's really interesting. And I'm not saying that you have to use AI in that way, but find a way to track and measure it because the insights that it comes up with, or the insights that I've had about where my time goes and where my energy is phenomenal now that I'm using this kind of tool. Whereas before, the time bandits would steal my time and I had no idea what they were or what they weren't. And the energy bandits were also stealing my energy. Whereas now I'm crystal clear on what energizes me and what doesn't, and where I'm spending that time on the things that actually matter as opposed to on the things that don't. Yeah. Really,
Yeah.
really amazing results are coming out of it for me.
Yeah. And Leanne, I mean, this is just an example, right? Because there's so much conversation around AI and its positive usages and it's taking over humanity, I mean, and everything in between,
And
right?
everything in between.
And this is just a kind of a perfect example, right? Of using it in a way, always double checking it, right? To make sure that it's getting things factually straight, right? But using it in a way to give you more bandwidth to say, okay, like here's my report, I've checked it out, it all aligns, versus, spending maybe the hours it would have taken you to do that on pen and paper,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And
and with,
the thing I like about it also, if I can just double click on what you've said
yeah,
there, Jason, is that I'm not getting in the way of the responses.
yeah,
Like it's actually telling me truthfully things about where the gaps are in or whatever the case may be, unemotionally.
yeah,
So I can't really argue with it because it's like, oh yeah, you're right. That is the thing. Like,
yes,
um, whereas if I had to try and do that analysis myself, I would probably piss in my own pocket, so to speak, and lie and shapeshift and, make excuses or whatever the case may be. But because it's coming at me in a report, it's much easier for me to digest.
yeah, yeah. Because at the end of the day, energy is finite, right? And spending it intentionally, which that's a way of spending your energy intentionally, is actually one of the most powerful practices of a well-designed life. And every I don't even know if I could ask one person that wouldn't say they want more time in life
Oh, yeah.
to blank, whatever it is, right? And so it's using tools smartly to help aid in expanding your capacity and your bandwidth, right? And a lot of times mental exhaustion, that comes with putting hours and hours in of hard thinking, right? And where then you can spend that energy around thinking and your cognitive load that you have and that capacity into, okay, I need to take this, this, and this and do this, this, that, and that in order to be more intentional with how you're spending your energy. So
Yeah.
with that,
Big one. That's
then,
a big one. That's a big one.
Yes.
You have to just say that's a big one.
Absolutely. And the final practice comes the celebration habit. And, we've talked about high performers a lot in our different episodes right here in series 1, 2, and 3. And with the celebration habit, most high performers are masterful at identifying what still needs to be improved in their life. Very few individuals are equally skilled in acknowledging how far they have come, right? And that can be for a variety of reasons. One reason that comes to mind is like, well, I don't want to brag about myself, or, I don't know how to take how far I've come and then market it, let's say it's in your professional world, right? So I'll just say that again. Most high performers are masterful identifying where they need to improve, but very few are equally skilled at acknowledging how far they have come. And because build a habit of looking back as well as forward. And, there's energy that goes into that as well, right? Because in order to build that habit to be able to look back and say, okay, I've learned A, B, and C, or got D, E, and F insights, to then put those into motion as you move forward intentionally. Also within this celebration habit, celebrate your wins. Not just the big ones, celebrate the small ones too, right? A lot of times it's a lot of the small wins that end up being the big win. And most of the time, these small wins happen on a daily basis, right? Where the big win may happen 3 months from now, right? So celebrate the daily ones. Along with celebrating the boundaries that you've put in place and that you've held in place for yourself. And that's a big one because it's so easy to let down your boundaries because you want to people please, or you want to please your boss, or you want to get ahead, or whatever it may be, right? And this is like, yeah. And I think this is like a big one where values come in too, right? Because a lot of times you'll create healthy boundaries because they live and aid positively to your values. Also celebrate the conversations you've had with folks, right? We all have good conversations. And we all have the ones that we bitch at too, right? But celebrate the positive ones. And also celebrate the things that you've chosen that will help move you forward during hard times, right? Because sometimes during those hard times, it's there's a lot of painstaking, or if you make the wrong decision, it could lead this way, or if you make the right decision, it could lead you this way. So celebrate those hard decisions that you've had to make during those different pivotal times in your life. And I just want to leave this section with that celebration is not vanity. It's the neurological fuel that keeps you going. So don't think that, oh, I'm being vain, or oh, I'm being egotistical about celebrating whatever win or whatever it may be. It's actually a neurological thing that's happening to propel you forward. And so I think there's a nice reframe in that for folks, that if even just tweaking it and just saying those words, that celebration isn't vanity, it's the fuel from a neurological space that's moving me forward. It lands so much differently when you say it that way than if you're overthinking and analysis paralysis and feeling bad and guilty and all that. So I just want to leave this section with that. Is there anything that you want to say before we move into the next part of the
Yeah, whenever
conversation?
I'm in a training room, I often say to leaders, if you want your staff to do good things, acknowledge them. Because when we
Mhm.
acknowledge somebody, it's a trigger to the brain to do more of it. And that's what celebration is for ourselves. It's acknowledging what we've done and propelling us forward. It's a trigger to our brain to do more of that. And oftentimes we wait for that external validation, right? Which doesn't always come. And so we have to be really good at acknowledging ourselves, at celebrating our own wins and propelling ourselves forward. And you're right, it's not vanity. Like this is a necessity in order for us to keep moving, especially when we're hitting roadblocks or speed humps along the way, right? So we're looking at, okay, well, I've hit a roadblock, but look at how far I've come. Awesome. And if somebody else compliments you, we brush things off. Oh, it wasn't
Yeah.
much, or I didn't do that much, or whatever. These days I sit there and go, "Yep, give it to me, I'm taking it," right? And I add fun to it. But not only am I doing that for myself, I'm granting others the space to be able to acknowledge themselves, to be able to celebrate their own wins. So we can be the beacon of light around celebration for others. And it feels awkward to start with, but so necessary. And it feels good when we do it, right? Once we get past that bit of awkwardness, and that's just the ego, let's face it, right? Ego stands for edging the good out. That's my acronym of ego, edging good out. So, when that comes up and it's in my head and the itty bitty committee is going, "I'll stop being a tosser. You shouldn't be celebrating. You shouldn't be bragging." Well, actually, no, I should be because that took effort and it's worth me acknowledging. So I just wanted to double click on that, Jason, because I think we not only do we not celebrate ourselves, but we brush off other people's
Mhm.
acknowledgement of what we do. And I think we shouldn't be doing that. We should be kind of basking in the light of it.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me when you were just saying that. I think what we put at the end of last week's episode that Dean Graziato or Dean
Graziosi. Yep.
Graziosi, Graziosi is where I graduated from my master's.
Sounds similar. Same.
Absolutely right. Um, you know, when he said, um, and I find this right, like the brushing off is a lot of people who are givers, right? Who like to do good for humanity and that they're like, no, 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 But when he said that is like if you could be selfish for 1 year and basically celebrating all your wins, big or small, where would you be a year from now?
Because we're really good at criticizing ourselves. You know,
Absolutely.
we have a big stick that we beat ourselves with. But if we could celebrate, imagine what's possible.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to jump in to talk about, what happens when the old version of us comes calling, and it will, right? Like, when our old life or our old patterns try to pull us back, um, because it will, and life will get hard, and old patterns will resurface. Because the truth is, we don't undo the wiring in our brain. We just give more attention to the new wiring. So the old wiring kind of moves to the background, but it never actually leaves us. So there are going to be seasons where everything that you've built feels like it's slipping away, or, the old patterns kind of just sprung up against us or have come into play. And we thought we were better than that. And why are we behaving that way? So then we can kind of get down on ourselves. And I want to be really honest about this because I think that people do a disservice to themselves when they make intentional living sound like a destination that you arrive at and stay at forever. And it's not like that. Life happens, shit happens. Like, let's face it, right? Like, really. And I've had seasons in my own life where I fell back into old patterns where the clarity I had fought so hard for felt like a distant kind of memory where it wasn't there anymore, or where I was running on empty and making choices that actually didn't reflect my values. It reflected survival, maybe, but not actually what my values were. And I'm sure we've all been in a space like
Mhm.
that. Um, where the old, especially when the going is tough, we're more inclined to go back to our old wiring because that's what's been there the longest. And here's what I want you to know, that this is not failure. It's called being human. I'm going to say
Mhm.
that again. It is not failure. It is called being human. We all do this. We all slip and slide, and that's okay. But the difference between someone who is living intentionally and somebody who is not is that not is that those that are living intentionally won't slip forever. And they know that the slips don't last forever. It's the
Mhm.
person who's living intentionally that notices that they're drifting sooner, that chooses to return to the cause, right? Rather than kind of going sideways and staying sideways in that drift. Because we need to be kind to ourselves. We need to acknowledge, yes, we're doing well. Okay, here we've drifted and we can pull ourselves back in. So you do not fail an intentional life by drifting. That's not what helps us to fail. You only fail by refusing to return to the cause. And I think so many people give up. Like they do really well and they notice a pattern that's come back, or they've noticed that they're drifting and they give up instead of coming back onto the horse and going, nope, I'm going to continue. Okay, I've gone sideways for a little bit, but I'm going to come back on. So we need to be remembering this, that it's not about perfection. It's not about doing it always and getting it right always. It's not how life is, but it is about noticing and returning as quickly as you can.
Exactly. And I'd like to, take a moment to talk about, what does that return look like, right? Um, and it looks like this. Surprise is coming. So the first thing is um, pause and notice. But the important key ingredient is without judgment. That you have drifted, and that's okay, right? Because, like Diane said, we are human, life happens, shit happens, but noticing it sooner and being able to notice it without judgment is super powerful. It also is asking yourself, what value did I lose sight of? And this is a small question, but an important one that, that if you answer it authentically
And truthfully, yes.
and truthfully, that's where you're going to get the meat and potatoes and the magic, right? Also, the return looks like taking one small aligned action, not a complete overhaul, folks, just one step. It's those tiny steps that are going to get you to the bigger, beautiful garden or the at the end of the yellow brick road, right? So take that one small aligned step forward. It also looks like regulating your nervous system. There's that
Surprise,
regulation.
surprise.
Surprise, surprise. There it is. Regulate again, right? Before you try making large decisions. Because if you're not regulating, you're operating from a place of fear, threat, most likely self-doubt, et cetera, et cetera. So
Survival. Yeah.
survival, exactly. So
Yeah.
regulate first. I mean, take some moment, right? And before you know it, that self-regulation is going to become a habit. Not saying one that it won't drift now and then, but it will become a stronger habit that becomes a new norm in your life. And then also the return looks like reaching out to a coach, to a mentor, a trusted friend, your courage circle, because no one sustains this work alone. It does take a village. It doesn't have to take a village of 100 people, but it does take a village. And like I said, a coach, a mentor, a trusted friend, somebody who you can be 100% open and authentic with and truthful. And this last point is so important. We are not designed as human beings to do this in isolation. It takes community accountability and support to make things happen. These are essential because the research out there is clear. We grow faster, we sustain change longer, and we bounce back sooner when we are surrounded by people who are committed to the same journey. You can think of it like a system that you've put in place, right? Because like Leanna and I have talked, there's going to be those ebb and flows of low motivation, low willpower. That's where your system, that's where your community is there to lift you up, put you back on track, right? And help dust you off and put that smile back on your face.
And I think the other thing to say to that also, the importance of having your courage circle, your community, your tribe, is that they can often see more in you than you see in yourself. They can see
Mm.
your potential, whereas you're looking at your weaknesses, your failings, right? Like really. And they can remind you of who you actually are, as opposed to what you're stumbling across right now, or what your potential is. Like I know in my whole life, I've been so grateful for those mentors that have raised me because of what they saw in me that I didn't even know I was capable of.
Yeah.
And that's the importance of having that community of people, of like-minded people. And they don't have to be doing the same work, but they do have to be movers and shakers because they're the ones that are going to hold you to account to who you say you want to become. And I think that is so important because we can hide, we can doubt, we can do all of that other stuff. But if you've got a tribe of people that support you, they won't let you get away with that for long.
Absolutely.
They just won't. Uh, yeah, we're all called forward. So I want to do something just a little bit different in this final segment. And I really want to invite you into a moment of reflection that I find deeply powerful and one that I come back to myself and that I use with clients as well. So I just want you to kind of sit and take a deep breath and relax. You can keep your eyes open or closed, but I really want you to imagine the version of you who is living the life that you've been designing throughout this series. Like they're on fire. They've done the work. They know what their values are. They've cleared the clutter internally and externally. They've set the boundaries and they're sticking to them. This version of you that's built the systems that supports you to do what you've set out to do. They've made those aligned decisions based on, the things that are important, and they're reinventing themselves. This version of you, they're not perfect, but they are free and they're purposeful. And they are at peace with who they are, and they are excited about who they're still becoming. Right? We're not ever going to be at the destination. It's always a journey. And I'd love to ask you, what would they say to you right now at the beginning of this next chapter for you? What might they say? Would they say, keep going? This version of you that doubts yourself is not the truth, right? That's just the part of you that's not seen the evidence yet of what you're capable of. Would they say to you potentially that you don't have to figure it all out today? You just need that one next step, that one small step that Jason talked about. Would they say that the clarity that you've built up until this point is real and that your vision is worth holding on to and protecting? Would they tell you to stop waiting to feel ready and actually just dive in because you're ready enough and you always have been?
Mm.
And that the life that you're building is not just for you, but it's for every person who watches you. Because when you choose yourself, when you set a boundary, when you back yourself and invest in your own growth, they're watching what's possible for them. You are their permission slip. And I think it's so important for us to remember that. So I want you to sit and reflect. What would they say to you, that version of you that's living fully 100% aligned? And take heed because that's part of you now.
Absolutely. And this is just such a powerful way, Leanne, to close this series. And it's powerful because this work is never just about us alone. It's when we do the work to live more intentionally, more courageously, more freely, authentically. We give everyone around us permission to do the same because you're modeling behavior.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key, right? That's exactly it. Intentional living is not selfish. It's one of the most generous things that you can do for those around you. The ripple effect, when we show up, when we're happy, when we're shining brightly, we're creating that space for others to also do the same thing. Like, this is not, I love what Dean Graziosi says about being selfish for a year. But by doing that, you're also being selfless and impacting the lives of others in a positive way, because you're giving them permission to own their stuff and to show up authentically and to do what's right for them. And there is no greater gift than allowing people to step into their own power. So
Absolutely.
it's deep. It's deep. Um, and with that, we come to the end of season one. We've got 2 more episodes to go, but we've come to the end of this particular series. And I want to say one more thing before we close. If any part of this has spoken to you, if you've had moments of, oh, yeah, that's me, recognition, the aha moments or the ah-da moments that we don't necessarily like, I want you to know that this conversation does not have to end here. Both Jason and I, we work with people who are ready to go from knowing to doing, from insight to action, from the life they've been living to the life that they actually want to live and create. Through our coaching programs and the work and obviously our podcast here, we work with leaders in all capacities that are designing a life that actually speaks to who they are and it fits them well. So if you're ready to stop sitting on the sideline and start being who you want to be, come and work with us. Reach out. Our bios and our websites are always available. And if it's not us, at least pick somebody, pick a coach, pick a mentor, pick a somebody that is going to hold you to account to the version of you that's empowered and living your life on your terms. We hope it's us, but even if it's not, find your team, because
Yeah.
you didn't just find this podcast by accident and you didn't make it to episode 33 by accident either. Let's face it. So you are ready to move, right? And this
Yeah.
next chapter of your life is yours to write. And I think that's so important. It's not at somebody else's disposal. We're actually designing and creating the life that we want. And Jason and I are living examples of this. I mean, we're both in different countries in the world and we've come together to collaborate here doing something that speaks to both of our souls. Um, and were we nervous? Absolutely. But did we hold each other up and shake each other up and support each other? Absolutely. So you need your circle. And we're living examples of what's possible when you kind of collaborate well and lean into the discomfort. You come out the other side actually creating the life that inspires you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I just support that wholeheartedly, Leanne, because it's like, if two individuals who are 17, 18, 19 hours apart, depending on the time zone, part of the year, you know, anything is possible for folks, you know. And like you said, yeah, was it a little scary? Absolutely. But, you know, we we built systems in place that supported those moments when one or both of our lives were insanely busy,
Out of control.
out of control. But we showed up every week, and and that for me, and I believe you would be aligned with this, says a lot. Because I have many people that are like, oh my God, like you do this weekly, like not just once a month. I'm like, yeah, every week.
every week.
Absolutely every week. So, and it's live. So, anything is possible. And I think the biggest thing for folks is give yourself permission to rewrite
Yeah.
that next chapter.
Yeah.
And, once you dip that toe in the water, you're going to be in the 10-foot part of the pool before you know it. And jumping off that diving board and all that good stuff. So, I think with that, unless you have anything else you want to close out with, we can move into our top tips.
Yep, I'm happy for that.
Awesome. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. So it always just amazes me on how fast our conversation goes every week. But I know once we get to the top tips, we have come to the close part of the main part of the conversation for the weekly episode. And these are really like the 3 top gold nuggets that we want you to walk away with. And the first one is that intentional living is not a destination. It's a daily practice. And with that, inspiration fades, motivations fluctuates, but the small, consistent choices, that daily anchor, the weekly review, the values check, these are what keep an intentional life alive. And I would also say that courage circle too, because you got to build the practice, not just the plan. Secondly, or the second tip is sustaining change is not about identity, is about identity, not willpower. Because the brain rewires, as Leanne was talking about in the neuroscience section, through repetition and emotion. And when behavior becomes part of who you are, not just what you do, it sustains itself. So become the person first, the results will follow. And the final gold nugget, top tip, is drifting is human, returning is practice. You will not get this perfect. So for all those perfectionists out there,
let it go.
Let it go. 2 recovering perfectionists here is you will not get this perfect. No one does. That's why we're humans and not robots. The practice of intentional living is not about never falling back. It's about noticing sooner and returning faster. Because each return is not a failure. It's a choice. And those choices make you as an individual and a human being within humanity stronger.
Yeah, and it's also a learning experience, right? Like this whole returning, it's not failing if we learn something from it and we realign and then do it again. So I think it's so important. I love that one. It's human to drift and the practice is returning. So simple, but also so powerful.
Absolutely. Okay.
And the one final truth that I want to leave you with as you step into this next chapter of you is that the life that you want is not waiting for you to be ready. It's waiting for you to decide, right? You are already ready enough. So just jump in. I just wanted to say that, there's ready enough. I love that because we're always waiting to be ready. But what about being ready enough? Yeah, anyway, I just wanted to say that. So we've got some resources as usual that I'll speak to before we leave our session today. And if you can move forward with the screen, Jason.
Oh, yep, it's here.
Oh, it is. Sorry, I don't know what I was looking at then. That's just clearly me not even looking well. So some of the books that I wanted to talk about is, which one that's not on here, but I will mention is Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. Very simple book about setting up that morning practice, or the 5 a.m. club, which is also on this list here. which talks about having um, that morning habit of setting your day up well. They're both great books to read. I've read both more than once, so I would highly recommend it. And the other one that I wanted to mention here is The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, because this is really a guide about how small, consistent actions over time is really what changes your life. It's like compound interest, right? It just the small things every day keep it growing. And it really is in the spirit of living it forward, which we hope that we've left you with today. So I wanted to say that. And then, as always, it's not a podcast with Leanne and Jason if Brene Brown doesn't make an entrance somewhere. so,
Absolutely.
because we love Dr. Brene Brown. And this book, Daring Greatly, is really a powerful exploration about vulnerability, courage, and the willingness to show up fully in your own life. It really is a perfect companion for this final episode. But the two that I've read on multiple occasions is the 5 a.m. Club and Miracle Morning. And I highly, highly, highly recommend that you listen to those or read them to set up those morning rituals that are going to really impact your days in a beautiful way. And then obviously we'll move over to the TED Talks. We've got Mel Robbins, How to Stop Screwing Yourself Over. Because listen, let's face it, we do that all the time. And this is a really practical conversation on the gap between knowing and doing. And it's perfect for all of us perfectionists to listen to because, we do that all the time. Obviously, we have Dr. Brene Brown again, a very good one on Daring Greatly. And Simon Sinek, he's also a fantastic speaker on how great leaders inspire action. And I don't know if you've seen any of his work. He's also got one with It Starts With Why. And this is really the foundational of intentional living. It's not just the what you're doing, it's the why you're doing it. And this is a powerful reminder of when you know your purpose, everything else just becomes clearer. So I just wanted to talk about that because I think it's such a useful conversation to have. So they're our resources for our final episode in this particular series. So thank you. But before I go, I just wanted to take one more moment to reflect on what we've built together since season one began. We started with series one, and it was your well-being, your foundations, the whole person lens. We looked at the whole you and your whole life and how we can create more well-being within that. We then moved into series two, which was the neuroscience of being human and how your brain shapes everything that you do. And we finished today with series three, The Art of Intentional Living, where we're moving from awareness to action and actually designing the life that actually works for us, that we want to be living into. So that's the journey that we've been on.
Absolutely. And just such a powerful journey that it's been. And with that, as Leanne mentioned, as we close out season one, today's the official closeout of series three of season one. And we have two special Pride episodes since it is Pride Month. And I am part of the LGBTQ plus community. And I don't know, Leanne, if you want to.
Yes, I have rainbow children who are also part of the LGBT plus community. So this is the next two conversations are very important to us on a personal level, but also on a global level.
Yes, with so much going on, with celebrating Pride and all the goodness that it comes, but also the work and the challenges and the fights that we've got to continue for equal justice and human rights, etc. So, like Leanne said, both this month is and this Pride season is personal to both of us, and it wouldn't be right if we didn't put in at least one episode to celebrate Pride months, but we wanted to do two. And so episode 34, which is going to be next week, is going to be about owning your story without apology. or I mean, the pride within, owning your story without apology. So that's going to be, can't believe it's already the last full week next week of June. These months just fly by. But it's going to be fly, but it's going to be Wednesday, June 24th here in the States. And with our new time at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and Thursday, June 25th in Sydney at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And then episode 35, which will be our final episode of season 1, is going to be on Built to Be Proud, designing a life you don't have to pretend to love. So, and that's going to be the first week of July, on Wednesday, July 1st here in the States, and Thursday, July 2nd in Sydney and Australia. So we're so looking forward to both these conversations, and we will have some panelists that will be with us. And so we are excited to delve into the conversation, not only between Leanne and I, but for our guests that we will have as well. And with that, I think we are ready to do our closeout.
I think we are.
All right. So before I get into our normal closeout that we do every episode, I just want to say that this has been one of the most powerful projects that I have worked on. And Leanne, we have brought this podcast, its honesty, our expertise, our willingness to share our own journeys within, being vulnerable, has made this podcast, Let's Talk, something really special. And so I want to not only thank you as my co-host from Down Under,
Yeah.
and but to thank everyone who has been on this journey with us, whether you've been able to listen live or you've been able to take in our episodes when the time works for you, because you are not the same person. And I can say this as a host, and I'm sure Leanne can say this as a host too, and also you as guests, is that we're not the same people that we were at episode 1. And that's what matters, because we've evolved. And it just makes my heart sing to think last summer we said, hey, let's talk about this, and we met in July, we launched in October, and here we are 35 episodes later, which is just amazing. I don't know if you want to say anything.
I just think it's been an honor and a privilege to work alongside you, Jason, and for our ability to bounce off each other and play to our strengths, and the complete openness, open-heartedness that I've experienced with you through this journey. It's been profoundly impacting in my life. The content that we've covered has also shifted my life. It's made a huge difference to me, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that you've just been my partner, my comrade, my buddy in so many ways, my motivation. You've kept me honest about, and what I mean by honest is that I know that I have to answer to you, so I get shit done. And that's just been such a gift. So thank you. Really, it's been an honor and a privilege to work alongside you through this journey, and to have the conversations that we've had, and to make the difference that we're making, and to impact lives like we're actually doing. My whole theory is, if I take one little thing away from something, then it's been worthwhile, and I have taken so much away from this, and as I hope that our listeners have too. So it's been, I'm grateful.
Yes, me too. And with that, we have the 2 special episodes, and season 2 is going to be coming in the fall. Well, in US fall, Australian
spring for us.
Um,
Yeah.
so just as a reminder, and we'll say this next week too, we will be taking July and August off as our hiatus and planning time to, curate new content that's going to be meaningful to you as an audience, and to celebrate our wins and to see where we need to make improvements so that we can show up as the best podcast for you as the listeners. So, as always, thank you for joining us for today's conversation on Living It Forward, and for being with us across all of season 1. Whether you've watched all episodes or just a few, thank you for being with us during this first season, which has just been amazing.
And as always, we hope that it sparked something new in you, a new insight, a shift in thinking, a new decision, or just that quiet knowledge that you're on the right track. And that, this whole experience of being human is a little bit easier because of the conversations that we have.
Absolutely. And as always, our mission here at Let's Talk is simple, is to have those conversations that matter and to remind you don't have to figure out this complicated, sometimes difficult, sometimes non-difficult thing called life alone. We're here to have those conversations with you and to give you some tools for your toolbox to help you live that intentional life forward.
Yeah. So, as always, if you've enjoyed today's session or actually anything in season 1, please share it with somebody that you know who needs it. Subscribe so you don't miss season 2 when it eventually starts, and keep the conversation going with us because it's important, and we've really appreciated you being here.
Absolutely. Because when we talk,
we really talk.
And anything is possible.
So let's talk.
With real conversations.
And limitless possibilities. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.